There's a question, or rather a comment, on my video about the nonsense of non-self, and it is this: there is no separation ever. So whatever you think you have found, that is just another illusion. Non-duality is not a teaching. It is already not separate. No you in there to be separate or find reality. So no you to increase your connectedness to what is. It's already what is. No matter how you look at it, from whichever new fancy wording angle, doesn't matter or change anything. Just empty words. And if that's what's happening, nothing wrong with it. Have fun with the words. And it's sort of a typical comment for those who have gone into what I've actually talked about in several non-duality videos, where you think you have the highest view, but you have actually just created a mental image based on duality. So you're looking at non-duality from the consciousness of duality, and you are projecting onto non-duality based on what you see from the dualistic state of consciousness. That's why I've said so many times that the big lack in all talk about non-duality is that there are hardly any of these teachers who talk about the duality consciousness, what it does, how it affects us. And it's not that what this person is saying is necessarily wrong, but there's just a lot more to it. So I'm just going to go through this because I think there's some interesting points here. There is no separation ever. Yeah, that's true. There is no factual separation. But there is separation in the mind in terms of you can be blinded by an illusion. And that's why I'm saying we human beings can be in two different states of consciousness. We can see ourselves as connected beings or as separate beings. When we see ourselves as separate beings, we go into a state of mind where we use what I call the duality consciousness to create a mental image of the world. And then we are projecting onto the world that this is how the world is. But it's just a mental image. It is all illusion. But when we see ourselves as connected beings, we can gradually increase our sense of connection so that we experience, after some time, how the world really is. But that requires a process of letting go of the many illusions we picked up from the duality consciousness, because they are very much, they're very pervasive on a planet like Earth. So unless you are willing to consciously free yourself from these dualistic illusions, you cannot actually experience what is. That's why there is validity to a gradual path which has been taught for thousands of years. And this modern idea that you can just instantly switch out of that is just, that is an illusion. And there are now a growing number of people who have been into the whole non-duality phenomenon and who thought they had switched out of duality and they had experienced no self, and realizing that that wasn't actually the case. They still have some psychology to resolve, which is these illusions. So whatever you think you have found, that is just another illusion. As long as you are still affected by these dualistic illusions, yes, whatever you still find, even if you find a concept of non-duality and you project a dualistic mental image upon that, yes, that's still an illusion. And you can say that, as I've said several times, there is really no teaching that can be given on with words on a planet like Earth that's an ultimate truth. In fact, there is really no ultimate truth. And then it goes on, non-duality is not a teaching. No, just like an apple is not a teaching. But if a person has never heard of an apple, seen an apple, tasted an apple, then Another person might be able to describe an apple with words in such a way that the person says, oh, I want to taste it. And therefore, if a person has never heard about non-duality, it is valid to give a teaching about the fact that there is a non-dual state of consciousness and that it's possible to attain it. And that's why you have teachers who teach. I mean, essentially, if you're taking the ultimate consequence of this, non-duality is not a teaching, you should say there shouldn't be any teachers out there teaching, because what they are teaching is just another illusion. From that perspective, I don't agree with that. I think it is possible to give a valid teaching about non-duality, and it's valuable to do so. Non-duality is not a teaching, it is already not separate. Yes, but that depends on what you mean when you say it's not separate. Because in a sense, I would say, if you say non-duality is not a teaching, you can't really use the word non-duality. Non-duality is, in a sense, a meaningless word. It is not something that exists. Because if you really take the consequence of what it means is, we have the dualistic state of mind and a non-dual state of mind. There's no thing out there that's non-duality. Non-duality means not dual, not dualistic. It's an alternative to the dualistic state of mind. But as I said, if you don't understand that the dualistic mind creates mental images of everything, then when you hear about non-duality, you're going to define it with a dualistic mind that it's a thing. It's something out there. It's ultimate reality. But you see, when you switch from a dualistic state of mind to a non-dual state of mind, you stop creating mental images. You stop defining anything. And therefore, it is, from that point of view, meaningless to define non-duality. You can say it's possible to escape the dualistic state of mind and attain a higher state of consciousness. But you can't really say, in my view, again, words are words, but non-duality is not a teaching, it is already not separate. What do you mean with separate? Separation is an illusion created in the mind. There is no separation in reality. Everything is an interconnected whole, created out of the one mind of the creator. But, as I've said in many of my non-duality videos, that which is not separate is not undifferentiated. It's not so that separation is an illusion, or differentiation is an illusion. We are real beings. We do exist. Because we were created as differentiated beings. We were not created as separate beings. We were created as connected beings, but we have gone into separation by our own free will choices. Know you in there to be separate or find reality? Yes. As I have explained multiple times, it's again this. Who is saying what this person is saying? Who is saying there's no you to be separate or find reality? If there is no you, you can't say anything. You're not here. You don't exist. You have gone into pure awareness, infinite awareness. You don't exist as a being who can be an embodiment on earth and say something. If you are expressing yourself on earth through a physical body, there is some you in there. Otherwise, you'd be gone. So, as I said, we have the option, because we have self-awareness and free will, to go into the illusion that we are separate beings. And in order to get back to the reality that we are connected beings, we have to walk a path, we have to find the higher reality that dispels the illusions that we are separate beings. So, know you to increase your connectedness to what is. Yes, the you that has come to see itself as separate can overcome the illusion that it's separate. This is what I, in many videos, call the conscious you. The conscious you is not the outer personality. So what I do is, I do something that most non-dual teachers don't do, and that's why they get themselves into these blind alleys they can't get out of, is I make a distinction between the separate self, the separate you, that exists in what I call the four lower bodies, the identity, mental, emotional, and physical. That is a separate you. That doesn't have any real existence, but it has a temporary existence. But it has no reality. It's based on illusion. But it was created by the core of your lower being, which is the conscious you, as I call it. And the conscious you is neutral, meaning it has created the outer personality, but hasn't become it. That means it can step outside of that personality, look at the elements of that personality, which is what I call the subconscious selves, and dissolve them one by one. And then it can return to its neutral state. And then it can merge back with the spiritual self. That is a very real process. And if you don't realize this, you can't answer a simple question. Why are you not already in oneness with non-duality, with all it is? How did you ever come to see yourself as separate? That's where you get into these very artificial mental constructs that infinite awareness manifested itself as you and forgot it was infinite awareness. How does infinite awareness forget that it's infinite awareness? How did infinite awareness incidentally manifest itself as a distinct being? But anyway, so know you to increase your connectedness to what is. It's already what is, no matter how you look at it from whichever fancy wording angle. Doesn't matter or change anything. It's perfectly true that there is a level of form that is beyond another level of form. There is a being that created our world of form, which I call the Creator. And that being is the ultimate reality in our world of form. And it isn't changed by anything that we think when we go into separation and duality. There's also the one mind, which is what every form is created out of. It isn't changed by our dualistic illusions, our mental images, our words. It isn't changed by it at all. There's also our higher self, which isn't changed by it at all. And there's our spiritual teachers. So there is a level of the world that isn't changed by our dualistic view. But it still matters because it affects us and how we see ourselves. Now, let me just, make it succinct here. This person, right? You would assume that this person has realized that everything is just what it is. If the person has realized that, why would the person find it necessary to comment on my video? Why would it matter to this person whether I express something that the person doesn't agree with? You see what I'm saying? By the very fact that the person commented on this, it shows that the person isn't just one with all that is. Because just empty words, and if that's what's happening, nothing wrong with it, have fun with the words. So why would the person then need to take issue and seek to change my view? Is that just what's happening? You can say, yeah, that's just what's happening. The person has just typed this comment and that's it. But again, who typed the comment? Who found it necessary to type the comment? There has to be some you that needs to express itself on earth. And as I'm saying, yes, there is, and there's nothing wrong with that. But let's just not pretend that we don't exist as a distinct you, and therefore we are not doing anything. Whatever happens just happens. Because that means you are, first of all, it's self-denial, it's not nihilistic, but you're also denying personal responsibility. I mean, I could walk down the street and hit somebody, and I could say, there's no one here hitting. Hitting just happened. But I'd still be put in jail. So you see what I'm saying? It's like this, it's like a total denial of the world, that anything matters in the world. It's a total denial of yourself, that anything matters. And what I have taught in all of my videos about non-duality is that things do matter. There is a you that exists that's real, and it has the potential to expand its sense of self, and that process does matter. It does make a difference to you. It actually even makes a difference to the world, because everything is interconnected. See, it's almost like when you say something like this, non-duality is not a teaching. It is already not separate. It's already what is. But you see, then you are still having a separation between the world and you and non-duality, what is. It's the same as this saying, only Brahman is real, the world is an illusion. It's creating a separation between Brahman, which is non-differentiated and real, and the world, which is differentiated and non-real. But the full statement is, the world is Brahman. Because where did the world come from? It came from Brahman. So the undifferentiated chose to differentiate itself as the world and as us, and it did so for a reason. And when you say nothing matters, it's all what is, you are denying the very purpose for why we exist. And I just find that's not really what I want to do with my life.